This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How are we doing today on this Thursday, bye-week Thursday? Hope you and yours are doing well. Thank you so much for watching the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. You're checking us out on the BamaCentral YouTube channel, or you're watching us on my own social media platforms, the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral, at Joe Gaither6, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, or subscribed and listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcast, Amazon, or Spotify, the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral. We appreciate everybody who's jumping in and joining us as we're creeping along through the bye week. We're going to have a lot of fun recapping the first 3 weeks of the season, kind of looking back, encapsulating the first quarter of the year, maybe giving a grade or two. But we're going to get a whole lot smarter on the show today because we're going to be joined by Tony Tsoukalas of TideIllustrated, managing editor for TideIllustrated, and he is going to make us look a whole lot better. But before we get into it with Tony Tsoukalas, I need to tell you about our friends at Purple Turtle Roofing. They're the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Purple Turtle Roofing is the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5. That's 877-787-6635. That gets you a free roof inspection. They'll schedule your appointment. One of their qualified employees will come out and they'll check out your roof for free, making sure that you are prepared for any and all of life's storms. We appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the Joe Gaither Show. And with that, we welcome our friend, Tony Tsoukalas. You follow him on the Twitter machine already at Tony_Tsoukalas. The T is silent. He's the managing editor of TideIllustrated. And together we survived a plane ride from Chicago to Denver. Good afternoon, Tony. How's your week been? Have you shaken off that bumpy ride?
And then Denver to Birmingham. We're not in Denver right now.
Well, certainly. I just meant that was a little bit of a shaky time.
Yeah,
what's going on?
It was that was a very turbulent flight. I'm glad my stomach is still recovering from it, actually.
Well, Tony, what'd you make of Wisconsin? Did you have a lot of fun? Obviously, everybody read you at TideIllustrated and follow you at Tony_Tsoukalas. What'd you make of Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. We only got to spend a day or so there, but I thought the Camp Randall lived up to its hype. I mean, for the time that the full stadium was there, right? Because they did empty it out in the fourth quarter, but I enjoyed it. I liked the jump around. I thought that I got to have the spotted cow beer everyone was talking about. So yeah, it was fun. And then Alabama looked pretty good, so give some stuff to write about.
Well, let me take you back to your first part of your answer, jump around. I told the people what I did at jump around. I was down in the student section. You guys, all of my reporter buddies, had a different report from up there. What was it like up there? I heard it was a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, from the jump around part, the press box shook. It was kind of neat. It was kind of if you've been, I guess we're talking to people that haven't been in the press box, but like if you've been in the press box for the Aggie sway in Kyle Field, it was kind of that same kind of it's a little bit unnerving because you're in a room that's moving, but it was fun. I thought it was cool. I think it would be better to be out there and participating in it, but it was still fun to see from the press box for sure.
Well, I think it would freak me out to have had it shaking, so I'm glad that I wasn't there for that portion. Alabama's 3 games into its season, so right at a quarter, right? 12-game season, 3 is a quarter. You beat Western Kentucky, you beat South Florida, and you've beaten Wisconsin. And frankly, all 3 teams had a little bit of deficiencies here or there. So, Tony, I'll just open into question. What are your general thoughts on Alabama through 3 weeks of play?
Yeah, I think there's flaws, and then there's things that they're really, really good at. Look, this is a big play team. I don't think I have to tell that to anyone. It's a team that can hit a bunch of home runs. It needs to be more of a consistent team. But no, I think this is a team that can score on just about anyone. It's just a matter of how consistently can they do it. And then on defense, I think this is a better defense than we were giving them credit for. I think, or at least at the beginning of the season. I think at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of talk about how the offense was going to be the strength and how this team was going to lean on its offense and really maybe overcome some of its, holes on defense. I think this defense has been a pleasant surprise for Alabama, and whether it be in the secondary or that, the defensive line, I think both of those are better than what we thought they were going to be. Obviously, we knew that Alabama was going to have a pretty good duo between Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell, and that's lived up to expectations. But I like what I've seen from the secondary. You got guys like LT Overton, like Tim Keenan, who I think are kind of like taking their game to another level. And so I'm pretty impressed with Kane Womack and his ability to kind of get the best out of a young group and kind of have it perform maybe ahead of schedule.
So you've given up, 26 points on the season, 16 to South Florida and 10 to Wisconsin. You've turned the football over, 4 or 5 times now, a couple of times with Keon Sabb and two this past week against Wisconsin. So you've had some good moments for the defense, and absolutely, I agree with you there. But you've also had instances where you're getting things up in the run game, and, okay, quarterbacks are fun and dink and dunks. Well, the competition stepping up in 10 days, in 7 days now, 8 days now, when Georgia comes into Tuscaloosa, and Carson Beck is not deficient like Byron Brown, like Braden Locke, the backup quarterback for Wisconsin, and maybe TJ Finley. How do you think this defense will hold up against maybe a championship level offense?
Yeah, I guess we're going to have to see, when you look at this defense, they haven't faced a quarterback like Carson Beck. And that's one of the things I talked with Mo Linquist today in our, media availability is just like, is his unit ready to be tested the way it is? And, I think there's a lot of optimism there from the Alabama coaching staff that it is. I think one of the benefits of this season and the way Alabama's approached it is they've been able to rotate a lot of cornerbacks in there. So you've gotten a lot of guys reps. That's kept people fresh, and it's also gotten more people the experience they need. So I think they're going to get tested by a Carson Beck. Obviously, he's just at a different level than some of the other quarterbacks they face. But at the same time, I think Alabama's going to be right there with Georgia. I mean, there's just so much talk about, is Alabama ready for Georgia? I think you got to look at the other way around, too. I mean, is Georgia ready for Alabama? Because Alabama's not going to be a pushover, and this is going to be in Bryant-Denny Stadium.
We're talking to Tony Tsoukalas, managing editor for Tide Illustrated. We have seen a lot of rotation, especially on the defensive side of the football. So I'll ask you just to kind of project, do you think that will continue against Georgia? Or do you think the rotations will tighten up and say, okay, big game, big moment, we're only going to let these select guys on the field?
Yeah, I think that they're still going to rotate for, a good bit. I think they're not going to rotate for rotation's sake. When you're playing a game, if it's a little bit tighter, I think you're gonna, keep your ones in there a lot longer. But I think part of it is Alabama's still trying to figure out who their ones are and keep people fresh. So I still expect that probably have a little bit tighter rotation against Georgia. I think maybe you lean a little bit on your experience at that point, at least in some regards. But yeah, I don't think you just totally shut that off or anything like that.
All right, let's stay on the defensive side of the ball while we keep the theme going. Let's talk about the freshmen. You've had Xavier Brown, you have Jalen Mbakwe, Red Morgan. You've seen a lot of freshmen play still early in higher leverage situations. How do you think that they have done? Obviously against lesser competition, but how do you think they've done?
Yeah, that's one of the things I was talking about, just the pleasant surprise of those guys. I mean, Xavier Brown's just really stepped up. Jalen Mbakwe is a guy that I thought was a little bit more raw, that we weren't going to see as much of him early in the season, and we have. So both of those guys have been good. Like you said, Red Morgan too. I mean, he's been solid. So you've got a lot of guys that stepped in, and it speaks volumes not only for the now but for the future. Because those guys you would think are just going to get better and better. Not even just throughout this year, but next year, those guys are probably going to be starters too. So it's really encouraging, and I think it's exciting. It's something that Alabama really needed to happen, and that you look at some of the things you looked at the beginning of the season. Alabama has to do this to be a championship caliber team, and this was one of them. So that's a really encouraging sign moving forward.
Did you watch the Ryan Williams and Jalen Mbakwe newest podcast with Red Morgan yesterday?
I've seen clips, but I haven't watched it. I know that they confused Red Morgan for Jermaine Burton, which I can
That was
kind of
my
see.
question. Do you think their likeness?
They look a little bit. They look a little similar. Yeah, a little bit.
I didn't think about that.
I can at least see where people were going with it. They did another one too. They did like what did they do? Like Zay Mincy and Kool-Aid. I didn't see that one as much. I think I saw a clip and they were like trying to like some other people got confused. I do kind of see the Jermaine Burton Red Morgan kind of. Yeah.
All right, so we gotta keep that just in the background. His if he has any off the field moments, his alter ego is Jermaine Burton off the alter ego. Let's move to an injury in a place that Alabama's going to have some questions next week. Quay Russaw, whether he is injured for a long time or not, we're still kind of there's still a lot of questions about how long he's going to be injured for. But regardless, we might assume that he's going to be out for Georgia, at least for the sake of this question. If he's out for the Georgia game, you're playing Quandarius Robinson, you're playing Keanu Coate, but I want to ask you about Yanzi Pierre because he got a lot of snaps as well this past week at Wolf against Wisconsin. How do you think Yanzi Pierre played, and how do you think that they will approach the Wolf position if Quay Russaw is unavailable?
Yeah, you'd have to see. I mean, like Q Robinson's been great, but I feel like he's been more of that pass rusher guys. And you know the hard thing about losing Quay Russaw if they do lose him for this game is that you know he is kind of like that 3-down guy, and he can kind of help more in the setting the edge in the running game. So you're going to have to find somebody to do that, whether it's going to be Keanu Coate, whether you just maybe get Q Robinson to do that more, or it could be Yanzi Pierre. I think Yanzi Pierre is the guy that's growing into roles. I have to go back and really look to see if he can be that guy. That I had to go back and like examine what he did against the run to see if he could maybe fill in that role. I kind of at the beginning of the season viewed him more of a pass rusher. But I think Keanu Coate might be the guy that you'd come in and hope that he could do a little bit more in terms of the setting the edge, and then still have Q Robinson be that just home run hitter in terms of he has got a sack in every game. So yeah.
All right, so projecting ahead, Alabama and Georgia. Georgia struggled against Kentucky, really run the football, and struggled offensively. So we've kind of been speaking about the Alabama defensive side of the ball. Do you think that it's just going to be a low-scoring kind of black and blue game, and this Alabama defense is going to be able to hold up and shut down the Carson Beck offense?
Yeah, I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game because I don't see either offense being able to pull off, big plays against the other. I mean, I as good as Alabama's offense is, I just don't think you're going to get 40, 50-yard plays too often against Georgia. So they're going to have to move the ball a little bit more creatively, a little bit more, utilize the intermediate, utilize some of the short game. I think there's probably some wrinkles there that Alabama's looking to exploit. But I think that, it's going to be harder. This is a different challenge than Alabama's faced. So, I see them I think Georgia gets a few stops, and then obviously you saw what Alabama did against Georgia last year. I mean, this defense is not, I think it's pretty similar to last year's defense. It's not exactly the same. It's got different strengths here and there, but I think this defense holds up pretty well. It's been playing at about the same level. So we saw Alabama kind of contain Georgia last year. I think it'd be somewhat of a similar matchup to what we saw in the SEC championship game.
All right, we're hanging out with Tony Tsoukalas, managing editor of Tide Illustrated. You follow him at Tony_Tsoukalas. Let's go into the Alabama offense with him in the first quarter of the season. But before we do that, let me tell you about my friend Derek Daniel, State Farm Insurance. You can find him, or you can call him at 205-758-3391. You can check him out online at agentderekdaniel.com, agentderekdaniel.com. Call them at 205-758-3391 for all your home, life, and auto insurance needs. You need auto insurance, especially in Tuscaloosa. If you're coming into Tuscaloosa for this game, the traffic is going to be crazy. Make sure that you have the right coverages for your auto insurance by calling Red, Reese, or Victoria at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel and State Farm is there. All right, Tony, we've been talking about the defense for a long time, so let's talk about the offense. And really, the Alabama offense and the offensive line had its best game against Wisconsin. But again, competition maybe not so hot. Wisconsin bet the best that they've seen so far. What did you make about the Wisconsin, the offensive line performance against Wisconsin? And will we see more performances like that now that we have the maybe first 5 settled?
Yeah, I think it's going to obviously, whenever you get a group playing together consistently, you would think that they're going to gel. They're going to play a little bit better. So, yeah, I'm expecting to see this group grow. I think that, it's not 100% settled at the right tackle position. It's probably like 95%. And I know like it's really just like popular among the Alabama fan base to just pile on Wilkin Formby, but I don't think he's as bad as he was against South Florida. And so I think that you can't just totally close the book there. And I think Alabama is going to give him an opportunity still moving forward. But I do think it's going to be Elijah Pritchett. I think, he's going, if I had to predict it, I think he's going to win it. But I think once you get that 5 settled and then you're able to kind of get them gelling and getting that chemistry between that group, I think it's going to get better. Plus, I mean, you've got a really talented line there. I mean, everyone knew about the interior line with Parker Brailsford, Tyler Booker, and Jaden Roberts. But then, you've got 2 5-star tackles as well in Caden Proctor and Elijah Pritchett. So, I mean, like it has the potential to just be an absolutely outstanding offensive line. It's just, things are going to have to come together. It looked pretty good against Wisconsin. And, there's a lot of things that are encouraging about that as well. I thought Caden Proctor played really well for someone that has been out for 2 weeks and, obviously would be a little bit rusty. I didn't think he looked rusty at all against Wisconsin. So I think it's, getting him back in the swing of things is going to be big. I mean, obviously Georgia's a huge test for him, but I thought he played really well. One of his best games last year was that SEC championship game against Georgia. So you can start building some momentum. I think this would be obviously a great day to do that.
You just wrote about it on TideIllustrated.com, but one catch for Kendrick Law after so much offseason chatter of, he's going to be an X factor in the offense. What's up with Kendrick Law?
Yeah, but he's been I guess the story is about how he's been impacting Alabama's offense in other ways. I mean, he's been a big blocking guy. He's been doing a lot of the dirty work that doesn't show up on the stat sheet in the box score. And I think, a lot of Alabama's receivers have done that. You saw it from Ryan Williams. You've seen it from Jeremy Bernard. I think you see it. The blocks stand out the most from Kendrick Law because he's the one putting defenders on their butts. But the other guys are doing well, too, for stealing off their blocks. I think it's essential, not only from Kendrick Law, but from everybody. You're doing so many of those outside sweeps to Jalen Milroe. You're going to need your wide receivers to embrace that, hard-nosed, blue-collar mentality. And I think, having a leader like Kendrick Law who kind of like really takes pride in that and can use his athleticism kind of sets the tone for that unit. And I just think that that's just super important. So I think the stats, that the catches will come. Like I said, I think he's a guy that could probably fit in some of the aspects that they need to move the ball against Georgia, maybe through a screen or, you could do some of those kind of read option passes. I think that could be a key part in his game. You could also, use them on end arounds and sweeps. You've seen a little bit of that with Jeremy Bernard as well. I expect Alabama to get creative in that regard. But in the meantime, I think it's just, kind of been fun to see him just put defenders on their butt. I mean, he put Hunter Waller on his butt, and that's first team all Big Ten safety. A guy that's going to be playing in the NFL. I think that's pretty good.
It was a pretty impressive block on Saturday. All right, we've been kind of dancing all around it, but the main question going into the offseason was Jalen Milroe and how he was going to fit, how he's going to be utilized in the Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan offense. So just open-ended to you again through 3 games. What are your thoughts on Jalen Milroe and his play for the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I think to a certain extent he is what he is. I don't think he's just going to become this, pocket passing, like just to pick people apart in the intermediate game. But I do think, you're seeing a little bit of growth and in terms of his recognition. I think one of the things we talked about on that bumpy plane ride we were on was that he was seeing a little bit more things. I think you pointed out that, on that touchdown to Ryan Williams, he read cover 1 and he, was able to kind of see that, diagnose it and make a play. I think, the offensive coaches have all talked about how he kind of organizes blocks and set those up really well as well, because there's 13 or 14 designed runs in that game. So he's, almost took on the role of running back as well as quarterback. But he was able to, organize his blocking schemes and really set things up for himself. And that just shows a lot of maturity, and that's going to help open up some things for him. He's going to be a guy, though, that's going to use his athleticism, whether it's his big arm or his speed. That's going to be his game. You were just not going to turn him into Tom Brady. And I don't think that you have to for him to be successful. I do think you want to see a little bit more growth in the intermediate game, but I think it's almost time that we stop talking so much about that and focus in on what he does do and how do you exploit that and how do you utilize that to your advantage. So I'm impressed with Jalen Milroe. It's like everything else. You want to see it against Georgia, but it's worked so far, so you really just can't doubt it. I mean, you got to kind of show some faith in him. He's been good, and look, he beat Georgia last year. So we'll just have to see. I think this will be a good indication of where he's at in terms of being a title-winning quarterback. I think he's a playoff-level quarterback. I think he's a star player. He's going to put up numbers this year. It's just a matter of, is Alabama right now at a spot where, he can be a title-winning quarterback? I think we're going to probably see a lot of that next week.
That's what I wanted to ask you next. I didn't send you these notes, but you're just going right down. My next one is, what's the Georgia game mean? Is there going to be huge takeaways, even though it's game number 4 of the season? What's it mean being game number 4 in the season, even with the marquee opponent?
Yeah, it's not the be all end all. I mean, it's a playoff where 12 teams make it, so you can lose a game. I think it's going to be an indication, though. I think if Alabama just gets totally stuffed by Georgia and just can't move the ball, I think that's a huge sign for red flags of, maybe they're not ready for this kind of defense or this kind of play in the SEC. But as long as they, hang with Georgia and prove, I think that there's room for, improvement regardless of this game. I don't think you lose this game, you're out of it by any means. And that's the same for Georgia. If Georgia was to lose this game, I don't think they're out of it. I do think that winning this game, pretty much puts you in you still got to do some stuff, but it gives you a really good shot at making the playoff. I think that the winner of this game, I would say, is probably going to make the playoff. So assuming that, they handle business, but I think if Alabama wins this one, they're in really good shape. But yeah, like I said, I don't think this is not like before where you played like a LSU, and if you lose it, it's going to be tough to make the conference championship game, and then you won't make the college football is different now. So you can lose it. I know it's kind of weird to say, but it doesn't have that do or die feel anymore.
What have you learned about Alabama through 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff, I guess. Some of the younger players are better than what maybe you thought they'd be at this point. I think a lot of it, though, is you've kind of reaffirmed a lot of things, right? Like you knew that this team was going to be a team that could attack deep downfield. You knew that they were going to be explosive. I think some of the things you've learned is they can get after the passer a little bit more than maybe people were concerned about that. I think they've shown they can do that. Obviously, I don't know if we learned this because I think it's been pretty hyped throughout the preseason, but Ryan Williams came as advertised. I think he's probably
what do you thought about him?
Yeah, he's been wonderful. I think, physically, he probably needs to get a little bit, bigger before he's ready for the NFL. But from a talent standpoint, I think he's like NFL ready right now as a 17-year-old, which is kind of scary just because he's going to keep on getting better and better. But yeah, I think he's one of those players that comes in and is just instantly good. Totally, different sides of the ball, different player. But like it was the same thing with Will Anderson. You come in and this guy was just, you could tell he could play on Sundays. He's just a totally different breed. And I think that's what I'm seeing with Ryan Williams. Whether you want to say it's, he's been getting some Julio 2008 talk. That they're totally different receivers, but yeah, he's going, if he keeps up at this level, he's going to be the best receiver Alabama's ever had. I don't know if he'll win a Heisman because I think some of that's, dependent, right? But I think that, he has a chance to really even beat Devontae Smith's numbers. He can be truly special, assuming he stays healthy. And I only think he's going to be here 3 years because I have you're not getting Ryan Williams for a 4th year. If you were able to leave for the NFL sooner, you probably would.
We've been hanging out with Tony Tsoukalas, and Tony, I really appreciate your time. I encourage everybody to go follow him at Tony_Tsoukalas. That's TSOUKALAS, managing editor for Tide Illustrated. Just a couple of more here for you on Alabama football and surrounding Alabama football. Tony, it's a bye week. What are you going to be getting into on Saturday?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna relax. Maybe watch some college football. My sister works with the Alabama women's hockey team, so I think I'm gonna go over there and check them out. I think Ryan Williams is actually dropping the puck Saturday night, so I told my sister I'd check out one of those games. But really, just the low key, enjoy it, recharge, focus on myself like Alabama is, right? And then get geared up for next week, because next week's gonna be crazy.
It's going to be a huge, huge game, and one more aspect of craziness is that former President Donald Trump is now confirmed to be coming to the game. And this is not a question Tony's politics, but question your experience in 2019 when he was in office at that point, visiting the Alabama and LSU game. Just how crazy was Bryant-Denny Stadium? How crazy was the atmosphere? And how would you project that going forward in 7-8 days?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much he adds to the atmosphere per se. I mean, I think it's just he adds to oh wow, well, at that time it was the president, now it's the former president. But he's at this game. It's obviously just reifies that it's a big game. But I think it's more just the matchup itself. I think everyone's been waiting for this matchup, just like they were waiting for that LSU matchup that year. I will say that the security is going to be intense. I mean, it was already intense. Now you've had, the recent events with Donald Trump, and I'm sure that there's going to be extra measures to make sure to ensure safety. So I'm saying get there early, because Bryant-Denny Stadium is going to be bumping, and there's going to be so much security there. I think that it's going to probably take a while to get into the stadium. So make sure that you guys get there early, and that will be a little bit of a hassle to deal with, but I think it will be it'll be kind of fun, and I'm sure that the crowd will get a kick of whenever Donald Trump's announced in the stadium. I mean, that will just create a roar. Ironically, though, if you remember that LSU game, it was kind of like he was announced, and then you had that to a ghost fumble. It was I don't know if it was that maybe created too much excitement, or just but it was it ended up being a little bit of bad luck for Alabama once they announced him, because it was maybe it's probably just circumstantial, but it could have been just a jolt but there was a jolt of energy. It was kind of neat. You have someone famous like that in the stadium. It's just kind of neat. Everyone likes that. So yeah, it's going to be a pain, Joe, but I think
it is
a neat moment inside of Bryant-Denny, sure, so.
All right, my last question for you is about the coaches. Kirby Smart, what was he, 1-6 against Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer, first time in this game. What do you think this game means to both coaches? Do you think it means do you think we're going to make too much of it? Oh, Kirby Smart still can't beat Alabama, or Kirby Smart, the new king of the SEC. Do you think we'll make too much of it, or what do you think about the coaching aspect of each side of this game?
Oh yeah, we'll definitely make too much of it. That's what we do, right? In games like this, especially with 2 weeks to talk about it. Yeah, we're definitely going to make a lot out of it. I think, obviously these are two of the best coaches in college football. Probably, they're both top 5 coaches easily. I think that they're going to have plenty more matchups against each other throughout the years, whether it be in the playoff or in the SEC championship game. And obviously they're going to play again next year in Athens. So, once again, I don't think if Kirby beats DeBoer, that's not a knock on DeBoer. Just like if DeBoer beats Kirby, I think they're still going to be top 5 coaches regardless of what happens at the end of this one. But I think, from Kalen DeBoer's perspective, right, you win this game, you really announce yourself as, hey, Alabama hasn't gone anywhere at all. They're still we won the conference, and we're here to stay. From a Georgia perspective, I think this is kind of your moment to say, okay, yeah, we're 1-6 against Alabama, but your legend is gone. It's going to be different. It's Nick Saban's not here to haunt us anymore. we're gonna really stick the flag in the ground, and you're gonna have to be behind us for the next few years. I think that I think it's it's silly to think that one game is going to decide either of those narratives, but that is what the narrative will kind of come will kind of be after the end of this one. Either people will be like, oh, Alabama is still the Kings, or Georgia's undoubtedly the Kings. It's probably not wise to make those bold sweeping statements at this point, but they'll be made for sure.
He's Tony Tsoukalas. You follow him at Tony_Tsoukalas and read him at Tide Illustrated, managing editor for Tide Illustrated. Tony, thanks so much for your time. Tell everybody where they can find you, and maybe about your great staff and your work at Tide Illustrated.
Yeah, just follow us at, like you said, Tide Illustrated or alabama.rivals.com, and you can follow me at Tony_Tsoukalas. My name's on the screen conveniently, so you don't have to worry about spelling it. So yeah, just check us out. I appreciate being on, man.
No problem. It's been a blast. I hope you have a great day and have a great bye weekend. Enjoy your bye weekend.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks.
Absolutely. That's Tony Tsoukalas joining us, and I really appreciate his time, and I really appreciate, giving me some company, holding my hand, because I was really nervous on that Denver flight. It was very, very bumpy, so he made me feel cool, calm, and collected, so I appreciate that. Make sure you go follow him at Tony_Tsoukalas and read him at Tide Illustrated as well. We're going to get out of here for the day. We'll be back for a Friday show. We'll keep going through this bye week, inch you closer and closer. Just a little bit of Georgia talk with Tony. Not all focused on Georgia, but a little focused on Georgia. We'll start to turn it up on the Bulldogs in the next couple of days. A huge game coming to Tuscaloosa. So we appreciate everybody watching us on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. You watch us on my own social media machines at Gaither6. We appreciate Purple Turtle Roofing for sponsoring the program. You can call them today at 877-PT-ROOF-5. That's 877-787-6635 for your free roof inspection. It's a bye weekend. You want to go ahead and get it done while you're just hanging out around the house. You don't have a game to go to. Call them today at 877-787-6635 or visit them online at roofturtle.com. We'll be back with another edition tomorrow of the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.